You're wasting your time. That's the hard truth, plain and simple. You're out here scrambling, trying to do everything all at once, thinking more is better, thinking that working harder is the answer. But it's not. The answer is focus. That's the word you've been ignoring. Focus. You see, 80% of what you want, 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. The rest? It's noise, distractions, filler. You've been spreading yourself thin, jumping from task to task like a headless chicken, hoping something will stick. But that's not strategy. That's desperation. Look at the numbers. They don't lie. Every result, every breakthrough, every win came from a tiny fraction of what you did. The rest? It was just busy work, activity that felt productive but didn't actually move the needle. Think back to when you achieved your biggest wins. Was it when you were drowning in chaos, juggling 10 things at once? Or was it when you locked in on one thing, laser-focused, and tore through it like a man on a mission? Exactly. You already know the answer. You just refuse to admit it because admitting it means accepting the truth. You've been wasting your energy. Time, energy, and focus. These aren't unlimited resources, and you've been treating them like they are. You think grinding 24/7 makes you unstoppable? No, it makes you inefficient. It makes you predictable. When you're trying to do 100 things, you're actually doing none of them well. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things. The 20%. Stop doing what feels good and start doing what actually works. Feelings. They're irrelevant. Results are everything. If you want to win, it's time to cut the crap. Analyze it. Where's the leverage? What's the 20% that drives the 80%? That's where your time should go. Nothing else matters. Not the fluff, not the extra, not the noise, just the core. And here's the hardest part. You have to kill your ego. You have to let go of the illusion of control. You want to think that everything you do matters, but it doesn't. Most of it is just a waste. That's not an insult. It's a fact. If you keep clinging to every little task, every little detail, you'll drown. You need to focus on the power moves, the high-impact actions, the 20%. Look at your tasks. Look at your goals. Ask yourself, what's the smallest number of moves I can make to get the biggest results? Don't lie to yourself. Be brutal. Cut out the fluff. If it's not directly tied to progress, it's trash. Trash it. Burn it. Walk away from it. Think about the 80-20 principle. 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your skills come from 20% of your practice. Hell, 80% of the problems you face come from 20% of the causes. It's a universal truth. Ignore it at your own peril. So, apply that to your life. Where's your 20%? What's the handful of actions, relationships, skills, or habits that produce the majority of your results? Find that and go all in. Double down, triple down. Milk it for everything it's worth. Stop chasing every shiny object. Stop doing what's easy or convenient. Do what matters. That's discipline. That's the secret sauce. Not motivation, not inspiration. Discipline. The ability to stick to the 20%, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable. That's what separates winners from losers. Anyone can grind for a day, a week, a month. But sticking to the essentials day in and day out, that's a different game entirely. And don't give me that excuse that you don't have time. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. The problem isn't time, it's priorities. You're too busy trying to do everything, so you end up doing nothing that matters. If you focused on the 20%, you'd have time left over. But no, you'd rather spread yourself thin and complain about how busy you are. Pathetic. Let's talk about failure for a second. You're scared of it, aren't you? That's why you cling to busy work. It's safe. It feels productive, but it's really just a shield. If you focus on the 20%, you risk failing at what actually matters. And that terrifies you. But guess what? Failure is the price of entry. You can't succeed without risking failure, so stop hiding from it. Face it head on. Every second you waste on the 80% is a second stolen from the 20%. You're robbing yourself of progress, of potential, of power. It's not just inefficient, it's self-sabotage. You're better than that. You know you are. So prove it. Focus, prioritize, execute. This isn't just about working smarter. It's about living smarter. The 80-20 rule doesn't just apply to work. It applies to everything. Your relationships, your habits, your health. Find the 20% that gives you the most return and double down. The rest is noise. Look, you're either going to take this seriously, or you're going to keep lying to yourself. But understand this. Every second you spend on the wrong things is a second you'll never get back. You've got one shot at this, one life. Don't waste it on the 80%. So, what's it going to be? Are you going to keep spinning your wheels? Or are you going to focus on what matters? The choice is yours. But don't you dare say you didn't know better. You know now, you've got no excuses left. Execute, no excuses. That's the mantra now. Every time you feel yourself drifting back into that busy work trap, remind yourself, excuses don't build empires. Results do. If you're not chasing results, what the hell are you even doing? Wasting air, burning daylight. The clock's ticking, and it's not waiting for you to figure it out. Let's get deeper into it. Let's strip away the fluff and talk raw numbers because that's what matters. You've got 24 hours in a day. Take out sleep, meals, and the basics. You've got about 16 usable hours if you're disciplined. That's 960 minutes. Out of those, only 20% are going to drive your progress. That's 192 minutes. Just over 3 hours. That's all you need to crush it if you focus on the right things. But are you? Or are you wasting those minutes scrolling, overthinking, procrastinating? The data doesn't lie. It never does. Track your time for a week. Write it all down, every minute. You'll see the truth staring you in the face. 80% of your time is spent on crap that doesn't matter. Meetings that go nowhere. Chores that don't move the needle. Distractions you justify because they're easy. But easy doesn't get you anywhere. It keeps you comfortable. And comfort is the enemy. You think you're grinding, but you're not. Real grinding is about precision. It's about saying no to 80% of the noise and going all in on the 20% that counts. That's where the magic happens. That's where you build momentum. And once you have momentum, you're unstoppable. But you can't build it if you're scattered. Now let's talk systems. You think success is about willpower? Think again. Willpower is a joke. It's a limited resource. You need systems. Ruthless, efficient systems that force you to stay in the 20%. Automation, delegation, elimination. If it doesn't fit the 20%, it's gotta go. Period. No exceptions. Look at the greats, the ones who dominate their fields. They're not running around doing everything. They're locked in, hyper-focused, making every second count. They don't waste time on the bottom 80%. They know it's irrelevant. They've hacked the game, they've found their leverage, and they exploit it relentlessly. That's what you need to do. Leverage. That's the word you're not thinking about enough. What's the leverage in your life? What's the small action that creates massive impact? It's not doing more, it's doing smarter. Find the lever, pull it hard, and watch everything else fall into place. It's not magic, it's math. Let's say you're building something, a business, a skill, a body of work. You don't need to master every detail. You don't need to know everything. You need to know the critical 20% that drives the 80%. Identify it, obsess over it, execute it flawlessly. The rest? Forget it. Let it rot. It's not worth your time. This applies to people too. Let's get real. 80% of your problems come from 20% of the people in your life. Toxic, useless, draining. Cut them out. Ruthlessly. You don't owe anyone your time, your energy, your focus. Protect it like your life depends on it. Because it does. On the flip side, 80% of your success will come from 20% of the people who support you, challenge you, push you to be better. Invest in those relationships. Double down on them. They're your allies. And don't think this is just some business strategy. This is life. Everything you do, every choice you make, it's all 80-20. The food you eat, the habits you build, the skills you practice. 20% of those things will determine 80% of your results. So stop wasting time on the fluff. Focus on what matters. You've got to train your mind for this. It's not natural. The human brain loves distractions. It loves the illusion of progress. You've got to rewire it, discipline it, force it to prioritize. That's not easy, but it's necessary. You think the top 1% got there by accident? Number. They trained themselves to think differently, act differently, live differently. They became ruthless with their time and energy, and you can too. So here's the game plan. Step 1. Identify your 20%. What's the handful of actions, relationships, or habits that give you the biggest return? Write them down. Be specific. Don't generalize. Step 2. Eliminate the 80%. Cut the distractions, the fluff, the noise. If it's not directly tied to progress, it's out. No excuses. Step 3. Systematize. Build habits and systems that lock you into the 20%. Automate the repetitive. Delegate the unnecessary. Eliminate the rest. Every day you wake up with a choice. Waste your time on the 80% or dominate your 20%. Choose wisely, because the clock's ticking. Time doesn't care about your excuses. Execute. Now you know what the problem is. You overcomplicate everything. You've convinced yourself it has to be hard, messy, chaotic for it to be meaningful. That's the lie. The truth? Simplicity wins every time. Cut the fat. Strip it down to the essentials and attack. The more you simplify, the faster you move, and the harder you hit. Let's keep it statistical, because that's how you win this. If 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts, then every second spent on the wrong things is a second stolen from your future. It's subtraction, not neutral, not harmless, stolen. You're bleeding time and energy into the abyss. And for what? To feel busy? To avoid the hard choices? That's weakness disguised as effort. Here's a formula for you. Output equals intensity times focus. You can grind all you want, but if your focus is split, your output is garbage. And if your intensity is weak, even the right focus won't save you. You need both. Razor-sharp focus, relentless intensity. That's how you flip the equation in your favor. Think about a sniper. One shot, one kill. They don't spray bullets everywhere hoping to hit something. They line up the shot, wait for the perfect moment, and execute. That's you now, a sniper in your own life. Line up your target, the 20%, and eliminate everything else. No hesitation, no second guessing. Let's talk about your goals. You've got too many, don't you? You're chasing 10 different things, thinking more goals mean more chances to win. Wrong. More goals mean more distractions, more dilution of effort. You need fewer goals, not more. 1 or 2 that really matter. That's it. The rest is just noise. Burn it. Forget it. And don't give me that nonsense about balance. Balance is a lie. Balance is mediocrity. You want results? Then you've got to be unbalanced. You've got to go all in on the things that matter and let the rest fall to the side. That's not chaos. That's strategy. Controlled imbalance in the name of dominance. Let's dive deeper into leverage, because you're still not getting it. Leverage is about small inputs creating massive outputs. Think about it. One lever moves a boulder. One idea sparks a revolution. One decision changes a life. You don't need to do 100 things. You need to do the right thing. The one move that cascades into everything else. That's leverage. Find it. Use it. Time for another dose of reality. You're not as productive as you think you are. Most of what you're doing is filler tasks that feel important, but aren't. Meetings, emails, minor tweaks. They're not moving the needle. They're time suckers. Parasites. You need to cut them out ruthlessly. Ask yourself, is this part of the 20%? If the answer is no, drop it. Don't think twice. Here's Here's a challenge for the next week. Track everything you do. Every task. Every minute. Be brutally honest. At the end of the week, analyze it. Highlight the 20% that brought the most value. You'll be shocked. Most of your time is wasted. But now you'll know. And once you know, you can't go back to ignorance. You've got to act. You think you're busy? Busy isn't the same as effective. Busy is what people do when they're avoiding the real work. It's a crutch, a shield. Stop being busy. Start being effective, focused, precise. A scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Let's get one thing straight. You're going to fail at this at first. You'll slip back into old habits, get distracted, waste time. That's fine. Failure is part of the process. But every time you fail, you learn, you adapt, you get better. Progress isn't linear. It's messy. But if you stay focused on the 20%, you'll keep moving forward. Now about excuses. You've got a million of them, haven't you? Not enough time. Too many responsibilities. Bad circumstances. Excuses are the language of the weak. Winners don't make excuses. They find solutions. They adapt. They pivot. They execute. You're either making progress or making excuses. You can't do both. Think about your competition. They're out there grinding too, but most of them are stuck in the 80%, wasting time, spinning their wheels, convincing themselves they're working hard. That's your advantage. While they're distracted, you're focused. While they're busy, you're efficient. While they're drowning in chaos, you're dominating with precision. This isn't just a mindset, it's a lifestyle, a philosophy. The 80-20 rule, the principle that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts, isn't something you simply think about. It's how you live. It's the lens through which you evaluate everything, your decisions, actions, and relationships. From now on, you need to ask yourself one crucial question. Is this part of the 20%? If it is, double down. If it's not, eliminate it. It's that simple. Ruthless. Effective. You see, most of us waste time on the 80%. We get bogged down in the unnecessary tasks, distractions, and filler that seem important at the moment, but don't move the needle. But that's not how successful people think or act. They focus on the small number of actions that truly matter. They prioritize the 20% that drives 80% of their results and cut everything else out. Let's talk about speed for a second. You might think speed comes from working harder or faster, but that's not the case. Speed comes from clarity. When you're clear on what matters most, you move faster because you're not wasting energy on the 80%. You become like a bullet, targeted, precise, unstoppable. It's not about grinding harder. It's about grinding smarter. And here's the kicker. The 20% isn't fixed. What works today might not work tomorrow. That's why you need to keep analyzing, adapting, and refining your focus. If you're not willing to adjust your strategy as needed, you'll get complacent, and complacency is the death of progress. The world is constantly changing, and the only way to stay ahead is to stay sharp, stay hungry, and be willing to evolve. The truth is, focusing on the 20% is uncomfortable. It requires discipline and sacrifice, but it's also the only way to get the results you want. Every day, you need to ask yourself, am I focusing on the 20%? Am I working on the things that will drive my progress? Or am I wasting time on the distractions? If the answer is no, fix it immediately. No hesitation, no excuses. This is your life, your results, your legacy. If you let the 80% steal your time, you're only robbing yourself of what's truly important. The choice is yours. Are you going to keep spinning your wheels, busy but unproductive? Or are you going to focus on what really matters? It's time to execute. It's time to dominate. Let the 80% rot because you've got work to do. And if this message resonated with you, don't just sit there. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more motivational content that will push you to be your best. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. And don't wait around. Focus on what matters. You have everything you need to succeed. Now go make it happen.